Exiting your business is not just about numbers, it's about emotions. For many of you that have built your business over time, you know and understand that the blood, sweat, and tears that you have put into your business, it doesn't just represent a dollar figure that you get when you go to exit your business. There are other areas that you want to ensure as you get ready to exit your business that you're very well prepared for and that are probably more important than the number that you're going to get for your business. The first thing that I typically find out with business owners is they don't know what they're going to do post exit. The business has been their identity for the last 15, 20 years, and all they know is waking up every single morning and that being their daily routine is showing up to the business, putting in the time and effort, and being very proud of the company that they've built. But when you go to exit your business, that's no longer your identity. So you have to figure out and have a plan of what you're going to do post exit. For those of you that are philanthropically inclined, are you starting to think about certain nonprofits that you'd want to be involved in? Are you starting to think about what type of role you want to have? Are you going to want to be potentially part of a nonprofit in terms of an executive type role? Maybe it's not nonprofit. Maybe it's something where you want to establish another business, something that's more of a passion for you, something that's not necessarily out to make more money, but something that's going to keep you busy in terms of what you've learned to become accustomed to, which is building something. Maybe you just want to spend the time vacationing and enjoying the rest of your life. For some people, and especially business owners, that's tough to do. It's tough because you're not used to taking that time off to relax, but it's also very necessary. And in some cases, it can be a mix of all of these different types of options. But if you don't plan for that, you may find yourself after exiting your business with a hole, with something that is vacant in terms of your life. So that's why it's important to make sure that you have some type of plan in place for you personally. Have you ever felt like you don't know whether or not you have enough money, that you could potentially run out of money once you exit your business? I gave a story a little while back in one of the videos where a business owner sold his company for $8 million. But based on his lifestyle, he ran out of money in 17 years. At the age of 65, he found himself at 83 years old trying to figure out what he was going to do to basically fund his lifestyle. So a lot of questions you are probably asking yourself is, what is my number? Do I have enough to be able to live the comfortable lifestyle that I've worked so hard to earn and deserve? That's a common emotional tug that you may feel and may prevent you from wanting to have that discussion or think or thought in your mind about exiting your company. For most of you, your business has been a lifestyle business. You've built your business to be able to find cash flow to basically live the lifestyle that you've had for many, many years. But at some point, it's important to start thinking about that next transition into the next stage of your life. But the biggest fear that you probably had is that the cash flow from your business has supported your lifestyle. And if that stops, how do you know if what you have after you exit the business will be enough to continue to support that lifestyle? When we look at family, for many of you, it's important to you to make sure that the core values that you have built your business upon continue to last generations to come. Have you ever sat around a dinner table with your kids and fully had the conversation of what's important to you, why you did the things that you do, how you treat your business and your employees? Do they understand how money relates to you in terms of how you view it? For some of you that have maybe come from backgrounds where money was very, very hard to come by, your relationship to money could be looking at it from a safety standpoint, that you've built your company over many, many years to ensure that you've been able to provide for your family so that you can have that safety and comfort. For some of you, your relationship to money may be lifestyle. Maybe there were certain things that you did not have growing up that you wanted to make sure you personally, as well as your family, did have. So having these conversations around the dinner table and really helping your family understand what's important to you is usually also a key component. Now, if you haven't done that already, it's not too late. I have older kids of myself, and we just started having these conversations now. It's never too late. So make sure that you take the time to sit down, help your family understand your core values so that they can continue your legacy for years to come. The other thing to keep in mind is they are watching you. So whatever you say, you have to back it up with actions. We've all heard the term of making sure that we walk the talk. So every day when you wake up and you go into how you do business, your family is watching. So it's important to understand that you are delivering in terms of what you are saying that is important to you and your company. Many of you have built this business because you care about people, specifically your employees. For some of you, you maybe have employees that have been with you since day one, employees that have helped you build the business. And a thought in your mind always goes to, if I were to step away, who's going to take care of these employees? The thing about planning ahead of time is it does allow you to make sure that you do take care of your employees, especially the ones that have been around for years and that have helped you build this type of business. So I know that that's top of mind for many business owners, which prevents them from wanting to once again have this conversation about business succession planning. But it's important to know and understand that the more that you delay this conversation, the more challenging it gets to be able to ensure that your employees are taken care of. And if that's something that's important to you, another reason why you want to take the time to start thinking through what that looks like today. When surveys have shown that roughly 50% of business owners regret the sale of their business after the fact. And there's a couple different factors for that. Number one is they're not sure if they got the appropriate amount of money for their business. A lot of that has to do with not truly understanding how your business is valued. Many business owners that I talk to just purely look at the top line. They look at the revenue. And as long as they feel the revenue is continuing to grow, they feel like the value of the company is growing. But the reality is that most buyers are going to look at your bottom line. And although you may be growing that top line, if you aren't managing the efficiency of your business, that bottom line may be flat and you may be not seeing that grow at the same level as the revenue. In addition to that, there are other factors that help boost the value of your company. Things like people, processes, your brand, your client capital. All these factors come into play when it talks about getting the right amount of value for your company. So that's one of the top regrets. The second regret that they have is that they don't have that personal identity post-exit. I just talked about that at the beginning, is that there are a lot of business owners that once they exit their business, they don't know what to do. And so they typically will regret stepping away maybe too early or not having the proper plan in place. The last regret that I typically hear from clients is that they weren't sure if the process they followed was the most appropriate process. Maybe they wanted to accomplish the number one priority of taking care of employees, but they sold to a third party who came in, restructured, and as a result, employees were impacted through that process. Maybe they wanted to pass it down to family, but when they made that transition, the kids weren't ready. The appropriate skill set had not been developed, and as a result, the company failed. So there are a lot of reasons why regret is a big topic that I hear a lot of when it comes to the emotions around thinking about business succession planning. One of the other areas is, can my business exist without me? Do I have the right people in place? So if I had to come to you and I had said, if you were to step away today, would your business continue to be able to operate as it was when you were there, or would that business fall apart? So stress testing the business is something that's really important, because you want to know that when you eventually step away, that that company that you've built for so many years will continue to thrive. So that's another area that is extremely important as you start to think through this in your mind. When we talk about legacy, that's one of the most important things that I hear from clients. If I had asked you today what legacy you want to leave for your family, for your employees, for your business, would you be able to answer that question? If the answer is no, that's another reason to start working on your planning now as opposed to later. For many of you out there, while you've built the business over the many of years that you've done that, it's also important, again, not that you just get the appropriate value or dollar amount for the business, but it's important that your business continues on, and it's important that you continue to transfer that legacy over many generations to come. I'm going to give you a really startling statistic. Less than 12% of family-owned businesses make it past the third generation. So if you are looking to pass down your business within your family, which is typically the most common response that I get from clients, the odds are stacked against you. So making sure that you help your family understand what your goals, your dreams are, and what legacy you want to leave is extremely important. And it's not something that you want to set to the sidelines. I hear a lot about wealth transfer. How do I make sure that the wealth that I've created over time transfers appropriately to my family? This is another topic that takes time. It's not something that can happen overnight. Many clients that I talk to, when I ask them a very simple question around whether or not they have a trust in place, the answer is usually no, which is understandable because, again, as a business owner, you are constantly spending the majority of your time in the business. Some of these personal types of areas that you're trying to potentially focus on get put on the back burner. Wealth transfer is not only important in terms of a dollar amount, but it's also important from a tax perspective as well. The other area that is important is that as you determine what legacy you want to leave is who do you want to leave it to and how do you want to leave it? Your kids are most likely all different and they most likely have different priorities, focuses, and needs. So understanding what they need, how they need it, and ensuring that those types of directives are put into a document like a trust allow you to have peace of mind knowing that everything that you've worked so hard to build is going to transfer appropriately to that next generation. Control is hard to give up. For many of you out there, if I had to once again ask you a very simple question related to what we'd already talked about, is if you were able to step away or if you were able to step back in the business, would you allow your business to operate without you jumping in and taking control? Do you have the confidence in your leadership team to continue to drive the business without your need to be involved? This is what I call working on the business rather than in the business. Are you more strategic or are you more into the weeds in terms of generating profits, processes, jumping in, working with your leadership team instead of taking a step back and allowing them to run the business and learn on their own? Control is very hard. And for many of you, once again, as you start to think about that plan post-exit, you have to come to grips with the fact that you will no longer have control of your company. And I know that's something hard to think about. When we talk about ownership, the bottom line is that in many cases, you may be the only owner. And so having that idea and concept of being the one and only owner and moving on to the next stage of your life, once again, is going to give you that concern or, emotional attachment to the business. So it's important that you understand, once again, how do you create that separation between you and the business? Because ultimately, for most business owners, your business is your baby. You've nurtured it, it's grown along with you, and you want to make sure that it's taken care of. And so you don't want to leave it alone, but at the same time, you need to make sure that you have that ability to transition. I always joke around It's like sending your kids to college. You've been there for them the entire time, but at some point, they're going to need to go away and operate and be able to grow and develop their own skills as they go to college. The same is true for your business, and you have to make sure that you're prepared for that. I'm going to transition into a little bit around the importance of trying to make sure that you are not thinking in terms of trying to time the market as opposed to making sure that you have been well prepared so that when the time is right, you are ready to exit. It's extremely difficult to wait until the last minute to either be forced out of the company because it's at a point where you need to move on, or being in a financial position where it's something that requires you to have that liquidity event. And as a result, you're rushed out of the company in order to be able to get that cash flow. It's much better to be in a situation where you have everything buttoned up, a good, strong plan in place. So when the right opportunity comes up, you're ready to move on to that next stage. And you're not in a position where you're having that regret to say, hey, I wish I would have planned appropriately and spent more time doing this. At the end of the day, you want to exit with confidence. All of these topics that we've talked about, while money may be important, it's definitely something that is going to drive and help you continue the lifestyle that you've currently enjoyed and want to take into retirement or post-exit. At the end of the day, you want to be able to exit with confidence, right? It's just like anything else in life. If you prepare, if you work hard, I'll use sports as an analogy, most of the time you are spending 80% practicing and getting your skills honed in and ready to go, and only about 20% actually executing on the game. The same holds true for your business. You're going to be putting in about 80% of your time preparing for this large event in your life, and only about 20% of it on the actual execution of making that transaction. What that allows you to do is exit with confidence. If you flip those and you only spend 20% on the time prepping for the actual exit, and you're still spending 80% of your time in the business, you're not going to be able to exit with confidence. You're going to be in a situation where when that time comes, you could potentially be scrambling, not know what to do, and not know where to start. So as I wrap up here, I want you to think about what it means to be able to think about exiting your business, not so much for the money, but for the preparation, your legacy, the emotional aspect of it, taking care of your employees, your family, and most importantly, making sure that you are able to live the lifestyle that you've worked so hard and deserve when you get ready to make that transition. If you're open to just having a discussion, a regular discussion about your hopes, your dreams, your legacy, reach out to us. One of the first conversations we have with our clients is just an open discussion. What are your goals? What are your expectations? As I mentioned, what legacy do you want to leave? And if you're a great fit for us to work together, we'd love to continue that conversation. If you're not ready, at least we've been able to kind of give you a couple things to think about and start giving you a time frame of when you want to start putting some real time and effort into your transition plan. So we start with a complimentary 30-minute strategy session where we'll actually put together a custom roadmap for you specifically around the legacy that you want to leave. You can click on the link in this video that will take you straight to our calendar to schedule that 30-minute meeting. Don't wait, because the longer that you wait, the less confident you will be when the time comes.